It's incredible to see so many people at such short notice. It's important to show the government there are millions of people who think the same way as we do. And isn't it absolutely unbelievable? We're here again. We're here again, not for the first or second time. We're here for the third time to say same mistakes as previous governments. They're doing all the same things. Before Iraq, they didn't wait for the weapons inspectors' reports before they decided to go to war. Now as well, we haven't heard from the weapons inspectors. We're doing the same mistake again. I would just like to say something about the Syrian people. Many people might have been to Syria. It's the most beautiful country with fantastic people. And there's now a generation of people who are scarred, perhaps physically scarred, perhaps mentally scarred. We have a generation of children who've seen the most horrific things. If they haven't died from chemical attacks, if they haven't died from the bombing, if they haven't died from the sniper's bullets, they are scarred for life from the horrible, terrible things that they've seen done to their friends, their family, their mothers and fathers. So I would just like to say, please, can we all say just once to this government, can we just say very loudly, hands off Syria? Hands off Syria! Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I want you to give a very warm welcome to the next speaker, my parliamentary neighbour, colleague and friend, and one of our spokespeople on health who's spoken out bravely against the attempted war in Syria. Please give a warm welcome to Diane Abbott, MP.
I'm here this evening to put beyond doubt my opposition to war with Syria. I voted against the Gulf War. I voted against the war in Afghanistan. I voted against the Iraq war, and I will not be supporting war with Syria. Such a war would not be legal. Such a war would not solve anything. Anybody who thinks that the day after we bomb Syria, Assad is going to wake up and say, I'm going to stop these atrocities against my people, is delusional. It will not be legal, it will not solve anything, and we run the risk of being embroiled in a civil war in Syria. What I have always said is this: if the answer is an American military intervention, then you have asked the wrong question. I will not be voting, and I hope the Labour front bench will not be voting, for anything that is not legal and anything which gives a blank cheque to Cameron to start this bombing. At this time, we all of us, whatever our party, whatever our beliefs, have to come together and say, hands off Syria. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you for your great work on the media all day today and yesterday in ensuring that we get at least some degree of balance amongst those that are beating the drums for war. Can I ask you to give a very warm welcome to the next speaker, who's been on every peace demonstration that I've ever been on, and probably a lot more I haven't been on. I don't know, we're not counting, it's not a competition. Can you please welcome my great friend, Tariq Ali.
Friends, once again we are out on the streets to stop or to try and stop yet another war. And this time we have the support of an overwhelming majority of the British and American people who do not want their countries to make war on Syria. So far from being alone, we are actually giving voice to a majority of people who feel that they are not represented in Parliament except by a handful of MPs. Every time there is a war, all the parties in Parliament get together and back it. And this time, when even the Arab League, which is normally in the pocket of the United States, is not backing the war, when the United Nations Secretary General is demanding more time to ascertain what these weapons were and where they came from, when there is growing disquiet within the military in this country and in the United States, they are still going to war. So we have to ask, why are they going to war? Is it that they care about the Arab people? Is it that the loss of Arab lives upset them? They are going to war to intervene in a civil war, to make sure that the Syrian regime, which has been pushing its opponents back, doesn't get too powerful, and to show the people they're backing in the war, we've come to give you a bit of help so that the civil war continues endlessly and people carry on killing each other. Instead of doing what they should be doing is insisting on a political solution to this war. And is it the case that the West is suddenly drawing red lines for chemical weapons? Who has used chemical weapons in the world? Don't, but go right back. Who has used nuclear weapons in this world? Only one country. Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombed when it was completely unnecessary. Agent Orange, heard the name? A chemical weapon used in the Vietnam War whose effects are still felt in the Vietnamese countryside. Chemical weapons used in the Iraq War in 2004 in Fallujah. White phosphorus. Where was the red line then? The only red line in Fallujah was the line drawn in Iraqi blood. So when they tell us this is why we are going in, it is a lie. Because underneath this is a grand strategy to try and topple regimes which are not completely in their pockets. And the main regime they are targeting is Iran. Because Iran supplies Hezbollah with weaponry which comes through Syria. And Hezbollah is the only organization in the Arab world which has fought the Israelis to a standstill. So that is what is going on. The war has little to do with human rights or anything else, as the West tends to pretend. Little or nothing. So we need, once again, to build a movement. We want you all, and bring many other people along on Saturday, and we want to put pressure on the party which is supposedly the opposition party in Parliament to act as an opposition party and vote against this war.
Thank you very much, Tarek, and thank you for all the work you do in exposing the lies and hypocrisy that so often lie behind these conflicts. The demonstration on Saturday assembles at 12 at Temple Tube, followed by a march and a rally concluding the demonstration in Trafalgar Square. That's 12 o'clock this Saturday at Temple Tube, and then march to Trafalgar Square. So we're going to need a lot of people there, so please spread the word around and come along to that demonstration. The next speaker is from Iraqi Democrats who opposed the bombing in 2003, and as long as I can remember has opposed these kind of conflicts, this kind of horror and this kind of war. Please give a very warm welcome to my good friend Sami Ramdani.
Uh, 10 years ago they started the war on the Iraqi people, and so far they have killed more than 1 million Iraqis. So far in the Syrian civil war, some 100,000 people have died. So how many more do they want to kill before they are satisfied? The more you think about it, the more this system that they run is absolutely irrational. It thrives on war, it thrives on bloodshed, and they will not rest until they dominate the entire world. And even then, they might want to find other enemies up in the skies. They and their allies in Downing Street have built their reputation on war and on exporting war and weapons of mass destruction themselves. They have the most advanced weaponry when it comes to chemical weapons, biological weapons. The United States has the biggest stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons in the world. In fact, they have more of these weapons than all the countries of the world put together. And I'm not just talking about nuclear weapons, but biological and chemical weapons. So when they go and bomb the Syrian people in the name of removing chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction, what they are doing is showing their real hypocritical face. What they are trying to do is force Syria to give up on the Golan Heights, because remember, Syria is occupied lands. Israeli tanks are only an hour or two from Damascus. This war is to back Israel, to hit the Palestinian people. They want to weaken the Palestinian people even further and try to evict the remainder of the Palestinian people from the West Bank. They want to destroy the Lebanese resistance and the Lebanese people. They want to drive Iraq into further chaos by all the terrorist attacks they are conducting. In Baghdad today, over 100 people have died in these explosions. Some 17 bombs were exploded in popular neighborhoods in Baghdad today. All these interconnected wars against the people of the region are for one purpose: for the United States of America and their ponies in Downing Street to control the oil of the Middle East and to increase their arms exports and to try and dominate the world. But they will fail, because the people of the region shall defeat them. No matter how many bombs they drop, the Iraqi people, the Syrian people, the Palestinian people, the Lebanese people, and the Egyptian people will teach them a lesson. Thank you.
Thank you, Sami. It's my great pleasure to welcome Andrew Murray to the platform, a former chair of Stop the War Coalition and also Chief of Staff at Unite, and is here tonight to give us support in all those capacities to our rally tonight. Please welcome Andrew Murray.
Thank you, Jeremy, and can I bring greetings to this tremendous demonstration on behalf of Unite, on behalf of our General Secretary, Len McCluskey, and to pledge that Unite will be working within the TUC and in this campaign with the Stop the War Coalition to prevent this drive to another disastrous war. I have just 3 messages tonight. The first is to everyone here and everyone you know. We have just maybe 24, maybe 48, maybe 72 hours to stop Britain's involvement in another disastrous war that will lay waste another Arab country, that will risk a much wider regional conflict, and that will once again put our country on the wrong side of international law, of humanity, of morality and justice. We speak for the majority, but we haven't got long to give it voice. So come to lobby your MP tomorrow before and during the debate. Turn up to a demonstration on Saturday. Organise action, debate, discussion in your communities and workplaces. Do nothing else for the next few days but try and stop this aggression against Syria. My second message is to end Miliband. Avoid the bipartisan disaster of Iraq. Do not follow the example of Tony Blair. Listen to Jeremy Corbyn. Listen to Diane Abbott. Listen to what Tariq Ali has just said and make Labour oppose this war. Speak for the Labour movement. Speak for the majority of people in this country. And my final message is this. If you wanted one single reason why this war is such a bad idea, you can find that reason bobbing around on an oligarch's yacht in the middle of the Mediterranean. It is the ludicrously miscast Middle East peace envoy, Tony Blair, yet again demanding war, demanding aggression. Now, the Royal Navy has 4 ships in the Mediterranean. If they want something actually useful to do, turn around, find that yacht, board that yacht, and take Tony Blair to The Hague.
Thanks, Andrew, and I am listening, I promise, and I am speaking out against this war as well. Can you please give a very warm welcome to the convener of the Stop the War Coalition, indeed one of the founders of Stop the War Coalition, Lindsay German.
It's tremendous to see such a big crowd here today, and I'm sure all of us feel exactly the same way. Not another war in the Middle East, which is going to lead to thousands and thousands more deaths, which will lead to a greater instability and which will lead probably to a bigger war in the Middle East than anything that we have seen in our lifetimes. But that is what David Cameron is offering us this week. And we're here to say we don't want another intervention. We have had humanitarian interventions going back to Kosovo, going back to Afghanistan, going back to Iraq and going back to Libya. And in every one, more people were killed as a result of those interventions. More people were made refugees. So when you have people saying, what can we do? Why should we be doing something which has been proved to make things worse? Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity was to keep doing the same thing in the hope that you would get different results. There won't be different results because the imperial powers do not change. They do not change their behaviour, they do not change the way that they operate. They are there to divide up the Middle East in their own interests, not in the interests of the people there. And that is why we have to oppose the war. And when people say chemical weapons have been used, I'm totally opposed to chemical weapons. I'm opposed to their use by whoever uses them. I'm opposed to their manufacture. But can we please remember that the United States used them, Agent Orange in Vietnam, which led to birth deformities for generations to come. White phosphorus and depleted uranium in Fallujah in Iraq, which are still leading to terrible birth deformities in that country and cancers and all sorts of other things. And they sold chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein. This is the government that we're dealing with, and our government has gone along with every single thing that they have done. And they are saying in the next day or two they are going to produce evidence of chemical weapons used by the Assad government. We really should be sceptical of this because 10 years ago Colin Powell gave gave us evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That was a lie. And they are building this case for war on lies. And tomorrow the MPs in Parliament should do what not enough of them had the guts to do 10 years ago and vote against the government and vote against the other parties if they are supporting this war. We should demand of our elected representatives they listen to public opinion, which is overwhelmingly against this war. There is one final point. They are cutting people's benefits, they're cutting the health service, they're cutting education, yet every time they want a war, this is millions, if not billions of pounds that is being spent to wage misery and destruction across the Middle East. Let's start saying we're fed up with austerity, we're fed up with war, we're fed up with this government, and we're fed up with the opposition if it doesn't start opposing. So let's organise now, be there on Saturday, come tomorrow if you can to lobby your MP, do everything you can to build a mass movement. They ignored us over Iraq. We're not going to allow them to destroy the world in the way that they tried to do then. Keep campaigning, keep organising, and we are going to win against this government.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. It's interesting that all the activity in the past 24 hours seems to be having some effect on members of Parliament and indeed party leaders. The news that's now coming out is that the Labour front bench are going to put down their own amendment, and if that falls, will vote against the government motion tomorrow. Now, it remains to be seen what the motion is that's going to be put down and the amendment, but I think that's obviously a sign of movement and a sign that the popular opposition to yet another war is bearing fruit. It pays to demonstrate. Please be here on Saturday also to keep up that pressure. Can I now ask you to give a very warm welcome to Steve Headley from the RMT Union, a union that's given fantastic support to the peace and anti-war movement and given great support to progressive causes, not just in this country, but all over the world. So I'm proud to welcome Steve to the platform here today.
Greetings, brothers, sisters and comrades. I bring you greetings and solidarity from our leader Bob Crew, our national executive, and every one of the 80,000 members of the RMT Union. I don't want to repeat what other people have said on this platform, but when John Kerry gets on the TV and says America is appalled, the stench of hypocrisy is carried around the world on the wings of his drones that are murdering children all over the Middle East. This was a man that served in Vietnam, where he dropped phosphorus and Agent Orange on the civilian population. Go back a bit earlier, they used nuclear bombs on the people of Japan. And they have the hypocrisy to say that they're now embarking on their latest imperialist adventure because they're appalled and they're worried about people's human rights. I wonder when the human rights of the people of Palestine will actually get considered. I wonder when Mr. Kerry and the other American politicians will be appalled at the Israeli terrorism in the Palestinian territories. Comrades, we have to bring this home. When we as a country can't afford to house people, we can't afford to feed people, and public services and the NHS is being decimated, how can we afford £1,000 a pop to shoot missiles into civilians? And we hear Mr. Miliband has changed his spots. Well, it's a bit late. Yesterday he was saying he was going to support this intervention, but he was going to support it reluctantly. Well, there's a simple message for him.